So this is the receiver I just got. So this receiver here is the one that I got from E-Trailers. And today I had a box here show up, and it brought all these parts with it that are laying around. And this is going to be hopefully my bike rack. This is what I paid $100 for. It doesn't look like it should take more than 30 minutes to put together, but who knows? It may take me 30 minutes to find a screwdriver. But anyway, this is what I got. And oh yeah, it's got this part right here. That's the ramp. So this is the watt, and this is my space I have to work in. So let's hope I can put it together. So we'll be back later, maybe after I put it together. Okay, I got my tools. So these are the metric tools, and here's me starting to put this together. Looks like I need to put these things in with 4 bolts on both sides, and then repeat it again. So I'm going to do that now. Got to find the right wrench, but hopefully it won't be too difficult. I'm doing this in the garage. It's like I don't know, 95 in here, so hot. Okay, so it's been about 45 minutes, and I got that 1 bolt on. I got 2 bolts, but I got 2 more to go. Biggest problem has been finding the tools necessary to put a bolt on. So I finally found this guy, and then I found that guy, and it turns out I need 3 items. So finally I've been out looking for one of these. So hopefully I'll go faster now. It won't take me 45 minutes to get the other 2 bolts in, but we'll see. Okay, so here we are. Let's see, how much later is this? About 30 minutes later. So 30 minutes later, I got 8 bolts on. And now I'm trying to figure out the next step. And the instructions say the ramp mounting holes on the rack are on the side where you'll be storing the ramp. That's my instructions. I'm not going to give these instructions an A. I don't even know what that means. So apparently there are rack mounting holes, but they don't show a picture of what one would look like. So yeah, got me. Now I know which side the ramp's going to be on. It's going to be, ramp's going to be here. So how do I know which is the ramp mounting holes? Okay, I got 3 holes on this side. I got more holes on this side. So we'll flip this around and say it's this way. It's probably not. We'll have to take this apart again later, but I'll continue to make some progress. Well, the 4 bolts that I've been trying to get in here, I haven't got in yet. I got 3 in finally. 2 went in really easy. The 3rd one was really hard, and now I'm ready to take a break. The holes don't line, and so you have to pound on it and push it around and stuff, trying to get them to align. So when they align close, but close doesn't really count. It's got to be exact in order to get the bolt through it. So I'm worn out now. It's been 2.5 hours so far on the assembly, and apparently I've done like 11 bolts in 2.5 hours. So oh well. Okay, so this is my first attempt at trying to figure out how to strap it down. I think I need 2 more straps for the back. This is the front. Ended up putting straps back here to hold the tires down. And then this strap here I had going wrapping around the handlebars. I don't have anything on the back, so I probably need to add a couple more straps. I just don't know where to hook them in at, because I currently have 2 hooks on this one, and I don't think I can put 4, so I got to figure out a slightly different way to handle this. This is how it connects. This ramp here works very easily. Now I happen to have a low mounted on my car. Since I'm on a car, if this would have been a truck, this ramp would have been really steep, but it's not a car. I mean, it's not a truck, it's a car, so it's not very high. And you can see how it connects to the back, so the clearance. Now I need to drive around and see if that thing hits the ground a lot. Looks like it would, or maybe would, so we'll see. So I don't know how workable it is yet. We're off again. Now I'm having a problem with my palms, and so I took a couple of days off and did some research on what could possibly cause it. One was seat position. So I rechecked my seat position. I wanted it to be at about 3.5 degrees downward angle, and it was at 3. So I would think that 0.5 probably not going to make a difference. So I didn't bother changing it yet. So I'm going to check out the other ones. The others is maybe my cars this morning. It's a pretty day. Whoa. I kicked my fender then, made that noise. So another problem possibly is my way my hands are on the thing, but by reading a bunch of different people about my hand placements, one of the things I need to know is what does my angle of my hand look like? So maybe what's happened is that my brakes are a little bit too high up, and I need to move them down a bit. Based on where they're at, I think they should be down just a few degrees. So that might contribute to part of the problem. They were pointing out how the angle of your hand should be to the going from your shoulder to your handlebars, and so I think my problem, and that you should be able to, basically move without using your fingers. Good morning. So what I'm doing is trying to check out all these things today. See, I think part of my problem is that I lean on my hands intentionally. That I need to not do that. So I think all I need to do might be to raise my handlebars a little bit, but first I want to test just sitting where I don't use my hands. Good morning. Using my hands can be, or leaning on my hands is not good. So that's what I'm trying to avoid. So I'm not going on a long ride because when I mess up and lean too much on my hands, it kind of hurts. So I'm trying to figure out how to ride without doing that. And they pretty much say that's easy to do. You know, a lot of things are easy to do, but if you're not in the habit of doing it, you don't do it right. So I'm mainly practicing today on my hand placement and my weight placement. So, and I don't want my weight to be on my hands. Another thing that I had a lot of people say is that my index finger should be used for braking. Well, I never used just my index finger for braking before. Seems I don't know, it seems like I have to get my whole hand involved. So I'm going to practice that a little bit. Apparently that's supposed to help your hands too. Just using your fingers to brake. Since I've been braking all this time using 2 fingers, or even 3, switching down to 1. Now I'm sure my index finger is strong enough, so it's not a question of it being strong enough. It's the question that it will be using more energy to hold the brakes down. And when I had multiple fingers up there, if one slipped, I still had a couple more fingers to hold on to the brakes. So, you know, it's something I'm not used to. And I feel better with another. It just feels better when I'm using other fingers. But that's probably because I'm just used to it. So I gotta get used to different. Now I mentioned before that my right brake was a little bit loose. So I need to study how to fix that, which I don't know how to right at the moment. So right now it's just loose, probably because I was using it more, but it might be some other reason. So I just need to work on that. And I'll probably need to move the brakes to somewhere different anyway. So maybe after I move the brakes to a different location, it will work better. Today's a beautiful day, isn't it? Yeah, today's a good day. Nice temperature, no clouds. Of course, it rained for the last 3 days, so it's about time for a break. I got soaked, absolutely soaked for my first time. Now, I knew it would have to happen sooner or later. But yesterday was it yesterday? Pretty sure it was yesterday. Was the day I got, no, I guess it was the day before. It was late. I went for an evening ride. It had been raining all day, and then it kind of cleared up. So I checked out the map, and it looked like it was just scattered rain here and there. And I said, oh, it looks like I could probably go. So the temperature was really nice. It was like 70. I guess because of all the rain. The wind was blowing maybe, I don't know, 5 or 7 miles per hour. So I was liking it. So I went out for a ride. Oh, and probably about 10 minutes into the ride, all of a sudden, poosh. No lightning, just heavy rain. So me and my bike all got soaked. My bike seemed to do okay. I obviously did okay. You know, I get wet nearly every day. So what was surprising, though, is the clothes I'm wearing dried up and almost, I mean, they dried up really fast. Now, they said they're supposed to be pretty good for bike riding and perspiring and letting the water go through and stuff like that. I didn't know it'd also be good for getting rained on. But yeah, it probably, I guess my pants and my shirt were totally dry in about 10 minutes, maybe 15. So from a totally soaked perspective to dry in such a short period of time, that was unexpected. I notice I keep leaning heavily on my hands. Man, it's hard to break that habit. All right. So I was pretty happy about that, the fact that it dries out. So I guess that means if I ever out riding, he get hit with a quick storm that comes and goes, that I'll be okay as far as drying back up pretty quickly. I just picked a route just so I could go somewhere. I didn't want to go very far. But it appears that the route's taking me across the street here. This is where I get beat up by the plants. So I'm trying to find out how to go here. It's interesting. I want to go slow, so I want to get up on the sidewalk. If I want to go 25, I probably would have taken the road, but I'm trying to not go 25. This route's not too bad, except for the trees that whack you. You usually get 3 or 4 of them. Appears to be a car in the middle of the road. I don't know what's going on with it. Maybe it would be a cop car, and I can tell them to get out here and cut down these mimosa trees. They're whacking me. Both of them. Oh, great. The trees are raining on me. Doesn't appear to be anybody in the car. It must have broke down. Alright, we'll have to slow down for this blind turn here. I don't think anybody's coming out, but you should go a little slow anyway. They'll probably be coming slow also. They probably don't even come out that way because it's kind of dangerous for them too. If they come down here, it'd be a whole lot easier for them to see. Most of this ride is just going downhill, dodging branches. Yeah, mimosa trees grow like weeds, so they could have been cut back well, not last week, but last month, and they're already back taking over the sidewalk. Go down here and slow down. So we're turning on this street here. So we didn't get much of a kick up in speed. One of the things I mentioned in my last video was the fact that I was going to get a rack, and it was going to be here by Wednesday. Yeah, it did show up on Wednesday, and I estimated my assembly time was going to take probably 4 hours, since it took that one guy less than 30 minutes trying to do the ratio of somebody who doesn't know what he's doing versus somebody that knows what he's doing. So yeah, it took me 2.5 hours. So better than I estimated, but still a long time. The first hour was trying to find metric tools. I mean, I don't work on things that require metric tools in a long, long time. Maybe when I was 16 I did. So since that was so long ago, finding the tools took about an hour. And of course, not every single metric item was still in the metric tool. One of the ones I was missing, well, in fact, maybe the only one I was missing, was one of the ones that turned out to be a major size. They used 3 different metric tools sizes in order to build the bike rack, but the one that put in the 12 bolts was the one I was missing. Now basically, assembling the whole thing is just putting 12 bolts in, so missing that particular one was pretty major. So I'm using a monkey wrench and a pair of pliers to try to put these things on. And let me tell you, that is not a fast process. Okay, it wasn't a monkey wrench. I was using a crescent wrench. But a crescent wrench and a pair of pliers was not... they took a long time. Didn't go on easy at all. And then I had the problem where some of the holes did not line up properly. So because of that, I had to, it's made out of aluminum, so it's possible to make the hole slightly bigger because it's aluminum by bending it a little bit. Should I have done that? I don't know. I couldn't figure out how else to get the screw through the holes without making them a little bit larger, since it wasn't reaching that far over to where it was. Now, it could be I was putting it on wrong to start with, and I consider that possibility, but I couldn't figure out a different way to put it on that made it work better. So anyway, that was a pretty big, long struggle. Also, if you're trying to bend over putting something together, your back starts hurting after about 10 minutes. So then I had to sit on the floor where I have bad legs, so sitting on the floor, not so bad once you get down there. Just getting down there is a little bad, and getting back up is a little bad. Not tremendously so, but just a little bit. So all these little bits all add up to not having as much fun as that guy that was able to do it in less than 30 minutes. Now, I did find somebody on the internet who had the same rack I had. And actually, I found 3, but 2 of them did not show how they assembled it. They just said, okay, here's all the parts, and here it is put together. So I figured they probably struggled too. And nor did they tell you how long it took. They said not so long. So I spent 2.5 hours. Is that called not so long? I don't know. But one guy who had a shop, who had power tools, and whose hose lined up perfectly, it took him about 5 minutes. So it's possible to do it really fast. And he showed us doing it. I'm amazed when he set the rack inside the hole, it actually had some space. Mine didn't have any space at all. I had to push and stomp on it in order to get it in between. He just set his down, it just fit in there perfectly. All the holes lined up perfectly. And he was like zip, 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 zip 12 times, and he was done. It was crazy. Well, this is after I've spent 2.5 hours, so it was crazy based on that speed that it took me versus his. So I was thinking, you know, having power tools would have been much nicer, and having a rack that all the holes lined up would have been even nicer. I probably spent more time trying to get the holes to line up than I did. Although, I don't know, maybe they're both about equally, but they both took a long time trying to get the 12 bolts in. So once you assemble the rack, and that 2.5 hours is up, it's now to do the little final installation, which is put it on your vehicle. Well, that makes it a little more difficult. We probably will not go that way. We'll see how this ends up working out for my Garmin. It looks like I can connect back to the Garmin. Down the street there, they got a tree.
Don't look at that.
So, yeah. Okay, so back to the rack. So once you get your 12 bolts in there, you now have to attach it to the vehicle. You can also put on the rack that allows the bike to go up onto the rack. You have like a little ramp, and it attaches to the rack also, but I was going to do that later, not to start with. Good morning. I'm seeing more people today than I have any day. Running about 12 people so far. Morning. I see the Garmin's back on the right thing. Oh man. Here's a little assist up this hill. Wonder what it is. Probably 11. Let's see what it says. 3, 5, 7. Come on, more. Only 7? Ah, man, I thought for sure it was more than that. I probably should have guessed 80 anyway. So the rest of the assembly, except for that little ramp, is done on the car. It turns out it's very light. I mean, I guess it's like 40 pounds, but without the ramp on it, it's probably 35 pounds. So I had no trouble picking it up and putting it on the car. And putting it into the receiver was no issue. It just slid in there. Lining up the holes was maybe only slight issue. After I got it in, the holes were like 90% lined, and so having to reach down and get the little minor adjustments so that the pin fits through was No, took a little bit of time. I mean, like maybe 2 minutes. It wasn't very hard. But then you had to put on the stabilizer. Stabilizer was 4 bolts. But I had a ratchet for that size bolts. These bolts were the side I had a ratchet for, so woohoo! Made life a lot easier having the ratchet. So I had to climb on the ground in order to reach it. Good morning. And so I was wondering about my neighbors. They probably never seen me laying on the ground in the front yard before. But in order to reach the bolts, I had to lay down on my back on the ground and reach out with one of my hands and tighten it up with the ratchet. Fortunately, it didn't require both my hands, so that was kind of handy. So just using one ratchet, I was able to tighten up the 4 bolts with basically no issue at all. It was not hard at all. And then it was on, and I checked the stability. It was fine. So having that nice stability, that was a good thing. So then it was time to put the bike on the rack. So I've decided I probably could not just pick the bike up and put it on the rack. I might have been able to, but I didn't want to chance it. You know, your back hurt, no telling what other type of troubles you might create. So I was trying to avoid doing that. I didn't want to use the ramp, so what I did was use one of the suggestions that I got in one of the comments, which is putting the front tire up there and then picking up the back tire. Well, that was pretty simple. Yeah, doing it that way was no issue. I had left since it can hold 400 pounds, I didn't have to take the battery out. I left the battery in and put it on there, and it seemed to work just fine. I didn't have any issues at all with it. I probably should speed up here. I think I had a car behind me. I don't see it, so I'm all right. Now, I should have it off here somewhere, I think. Yeah, I got to turn here. Still got no cars behind me. So this one went pretty well compared to some of the other tries. It turns out that once you get the bike on there, you probably should have your straps in your hand, because it's pretty easy to get up there, but not so easy to strap. With one hand holding the bike and the other hand trying to reach for straps. I see that I'm still leaning on my front palms. I don't know. It's hard not to. Okay, now see, I do pretty good right now. So now we come into a series of new problems that I have. I don't really know how to use ratchet straps. I never used them before. I figured, how tough can they be? But then you add in the fact that I'm inept with mechanical related things. They turn out to be much more difficult than you would have thought. Much more difficult than I would have thought. So I went about trying to figure out how to get the straps on there. Basically, I had to lean the bike against the car in order to get the straps on there. And then I didn't get the straps on correctly, obviously. What's the chances of that the first time? It turns out it's not very high for me. And so, but the advantage is that I had 4 of them. So while 2 of them were holding it on, I then went to try to figure out how to use a strap to get the next one on. Now the strap comes with a very long strap, very long, like, I don't know, 20 feet. It was very long. But I only need about 4 feet to hold it on. I don't need that much. So I got like 16 feet of extra straps. And I'm thinking, what the heck do you do with this extra 16 feet? And I said, well, I must be doing it wrong. So I decided at that time that what I needed to do was to take the bike, undo all the straps I got, take the bike off the rack, and go watch a video on how straps work. Well, that turned out to be very interesting. I first started off watching how people strap their bike down. Oh man, people are crazy. There was all sorts of methods of strapping it down. Many of them not very good. But it's what people were doing. And I said, okay, after watching all these people, I don't feel quite so bad because I don't know what I'm doing, but none of these people know what they're doing either. So I decided to go to to watch somebody strap a bike onto a trailer. Instead, I went to how to use a strap. And those people gave me much better advice on how to use a strap. So after watching those videos and learning how straps work, yeah, that made life much easier. Knowing what to pull, how to thread the strap properly, all those things are good things to know. And me learning those things made strapping a whole lot easier. But I still had like 12 feet of strapping left over. So I was thinking about cutting it off, but I said, well, what if I need these ratchets for something else? And I was thinking, yeah, like I've never used a ratchet before, so if you can go nearly 70 years without ever using a ratchet, yeah, I'm probably not going to need it. But I didn't want to cut it off until I figured it out, so went back to the videos, figure out how do you what do you do with the extra strap? Do you just cut it off? Can you tie it down somehow? Do you wrap it around the bicycle 30 times? Oh, well, I'm gonna let this guy here pass. If I was a car, it wouldn't have been no trouble, but being a bicycle, yeah, I don't want big old gigantic jump truck behind me, not after my last experience. And he has a whole line of cars behind him. All right. So now we want to get this up to a higher level. Yeah, I wonder if I can take my back route back. Yeah, let's do that. That way it's safe. I don't have to worry about anything. Although there wasn't anybody behind me, so probably safe to continue on the other way too. It'll be the first time I've ever gone this way. I always come the other direction. So anyway, when I was looking up the ratchet videos, how to tie down the excess, oh, there's actually a way to do that. People have actually figured out a pretty nifty way by making a little circle and then wrapping it up like you would wrapping up a hose or something, a water hose, and then running the strap through it and then tying it off, and therefore it stays, doesn't fall apart, and you still keep all your strap. Now I don't know if I want to continue to do that, but initially I think that's a good idea. So I'll do that for my first few trips. Do that type of tie down so that, whoops, I need to get this to an easier track in order to get through here. So I was overall I was pretty excited with learning ratchets. Not something as a accountant it was ever needed, but now that I have a bike, they cleared up the falling tree limb. But now that I have a bike and have to travel places, it might turn out to be a good idea to know how to use a ratchet. One of the ratchet videos said that 90% of the people don't know how to use a ratchet. And I watched some people ratchet bicycles onto racks, and I agree. Those were the guys who were willing to show you how they did it. And they were doing a terrible job. So yeah, I'll probably have a video on ratcheting down my bike one of these days, because I think we can't have enough people ratcheting down the bike correctly, or at least more correctly. I think I know how to do it right, so I'll probably have a video on that, and I'll apply it to any type of rack that you're going to have to use straps to hold your bike on. So that was my experience with my rack. It fit nicely on my car. It looks good with my bike on, with it all ratcheted down. I have not gone anywhere with it. All I did was ratchet down. I mean, it's raining all the time around here. So, until today, so I might be able to strap it down and go somewhere today, but up until today, it's been raining. So, not that much fun to spend time out there. And then you get your bike wet too. Now I haven't figured out what type of things I want to keep on my bike while traveling. I would think that probably the garment I have to take off, but I think everything else, and maybe my bags, I don't know. Tell me, do people normally take their bags off their bike when they transport it? Probably they would. I mean, if you're driving, especially if you got on the interstate, you're going 65 miles per hour, yeah, probably having a bag still attached to your bike would not be a good idea. Morning. Good morning. All right. Oh, here we are back at home. I'm thinking that, I'm not sure if I turned it on the recording. Great. I know I turned it on the thing. I just don't know if I turned the recording part on. Oh well, that would be me.